we have a curious position in that Parliament has always been the body designed to protect our freedoms. It's always exercised restraint against an executive or government that wants more power. And what we're seeing in recent years across both governments, or the former government and the present government, is a willingness to pass laws that really are much more extreme than we need, and where you've got a collusion really of both major parties to allow the executive these increased powers, so that the role of Parliament in protecting freedoms is being diminished, and indeed also so too are the powers of the judiciary to review the decisions of ministers.
I have to say that I disagree with a lot of what Gillian had to say, because the first duty is to look after the people. We are answerable to the people at the ballot box, and it is a working and free democracy, the best in the world, in my view. And the fact that we have criticisms about the precautions that are being taken to ensure the safety of our people can be fair commentary, but sometimes it can overstep the mark too. And there is a time, and I think Gillian recognises it, when you're a statutory officer, you have to decide whether you are a statutory officer fulfilling that role with security of tenure, or whether you wish to say, I want to be part of the political debate and stand for office and run and become part of that political process. Gillian, if I can say, that report of yours was seen by many, including me, as one that was, if it was to be done, should have been done under the previous government when there were 2,000 children, but you chose to do it afterwards, and that made it very political. And it has made you a very political figure, and therefore you are subject to criticism. As I said before, you have to make the decision. Are you a statutory officer carrying out an obligation with the protection of that office, or do you wish to be a political participant? If you do wish to be a political participant, then you have to be no longer a statutory officer and perhaps stand for office.
Go ahead, Gillian Triggs. You need to answer
I
that.
am a statutory officer, and that's a position of independence which allows me to speak based on the evidence and based on the law as truthfully as I can to government and to the Australian people, and that is what I believe I have been doing. I've been meeting my statutory obligations. Indeed, were I to receive frequent praise and commendation from the government, I think the Australian people would have a good reason to ask for my resignation.
It's very curious argument.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
I wonder if I could just make one further point, and that is that throughout the years of the former government, we produced 180 different pieces of work, reports, mandatory detention centres, reports to the government. We had a special inquiry into the use of wrist x-rays to determine the age of children, and I went to Christmas Island and to various other detention centres. So I think it would be fair to say that we worked as strongly during the former government to protest against the holding of children for long periods of time as we did under the new government. Although our plan, of course, was to hold an inquiry in 2014, we weren't to know which government was going to win that election. And also that inquiry was, of course, backward-looking. It wasn't for the forward months. It was to examine what was the effect on the children of the period in which they were held in such large numbers and for such long periods of time. So perhaps I can finish, if I may, by saying that my position is not a political one. We work according to the law at the Australian Human Rights Commission, and we try to ensure that our evidence is accurate and well-founded. But unfortunately, of course, many of our findings and recommendations are interpreted in political ways, and I'm afraid in the human rights context it's very hard not to be perceived to be political, and that's really something we have to manage. But I can certainly assure the Australian people that the Human Rights Commission operates in a very neutral way, and we operate on the basis of the rule of law, which brings us, of course, back to the Magna Carta.